Welcome to, well, not really the Whitfield report, although I guess this is a bonus episode. But welcome to Whitfield's report here on Substack. Uh I will be posting this to the podcast feed and to YouTube as well, at least the archive. Um, you know, But I kind of wanted to just do this, impromptu and kind of the live stream. I don't know how long this is going to be. Just kind of want to riff real quick and just kind of get some of my thoughts out there. To be honest, like I'm pretty fed up kind of with the internet and with the, commentary space. I feel like I've ranted about this pretty much like every single week on the show with Max and Morpheus for a while. So I kind of feel like this is a bit redundant. Hence why I'm not necessarily putting this on, uh, YouTube live right away. Um, because I feel like I've said a lot of this in the past few weeks, but it's worth mentioning again. Um, Long story short, ladies and gentlemen, I've been pretty dismayed over kind of the state of the political commentary sphere ever since Charlie Kirk was assassinated. I understand people have their different ways of processing grief. We all do. And that's to be expected. Um, but for one, I mean Candace Owens, I don't regret anything I've said, about her. I do think she's a grifter, and a lot of people, are waking up to that fact. I don't really care that she was, a close personal friend of Charlie Kirk, and I've seen people posting, the clip of him, like, 2 weeks before he passed, saying that, "Oh, well, they would never, Charlie would never disavow Candace because, look what he said 2 weeks, before his death, that, you know, he said he would never, um, end friendship based on differences of opinion." And I feel like that's valid to a certain extent. However, considering that Candace has taken, like, pot shots at his wife and has basically, accused his whole entire organization of somehow being, behind his death somehow or something crazy like that. Like, I don't think he'd be cool with that, you know? Like, I don't even have to be like a good friend of his to know that, like, yeah, he wouldn't be cool with that. And by the way, like, as I've said before, like, yeah, I knew Charlie in the early days of Turning Point before he really became famous. And people have brought that up to me and they're like, oh, well, you might have met him once on a Skype call, but you don't really know him. And, that's true. I didn't know him that well compared to other people, at Turning Point. I never really wanted to like formally work for Turning Point. I wrote a couple of columns for Hypeline, which was their news commentary website, and I had a few Turning Point chapter representatives on the Whitfield report um, over the years. Um, and Charlie and I did talk a few times, like on Google Hangouts and, you know, group chats. So I wanted to say that I was, close friends with him, but I liked him. I will say that um, when a few of my friends uh, were dismissed from Turning Point for stupid reasons, like I didn't really like that they were dismissed and um, that, but I never really I thought it was a bad decision, and I don't want to get into the whole politics of that, but um, I think that there were some various decisions that he made that weren't always the best. I remember I was pretty critical of Charlie when he uh, basically wrote a book saying that college was, useless and that people shouldn't go to college. And my only criticism of that was really that I thought it was really kind of hypocritical for him to write that book, but also be leading um, an organization that basically, their whole thing is going on college campuses and promoting conservative values on college campuses. Kind of seemed a little hypocritical, to be leading this organization that was all about colleges and then also telling, people in particular young men not to go to college, right? Um, kind rubbed me the wrong way, but, you know, I I think, he kind of changed, course for that message, and yeah. So needless to say, I don't think that Charlie Kirk was perfect. Um, I certainly had my, disagreements with him. As I would with anyone, even though it's I like. But I still respected at the end of the day, I still respected what Turning Point was doing. Kind of how they led the path for other organizations like Young Americans for Liberty, which I was also a part of. I actually did start a chapter of Young Americans for Liberty on my college campus. The reason I didn't do Turning Point was basically because at the time when I reached out to Turning Point, they weren't really interested in, uh, going on to like a smaller like community college campus, which is where I was at the time, and Young Americans for Liberty was. So, there was that aspect too. And Yale used to, there was always the joke, um, Yale versus Turning Point, which one is better? Um, but at the end of the day, both organizations ultimately do good work in promoting, um, conservative values on college campuses and helping to get students inspired and activated. And I'm very proud of that. And, when Charlie died, I talked to people from who I knew from both Turning Point and Yale, and yeah, we were all heartbroken over that. So I say all that to say that yes, I had my disagreements with Charlie, and no, I wasn't his closest friend, but I respected him. as a colleague and as a fellow traveler. Um, however, let me just say this. I think it's really, I'm upfront with the fact, like, I wasn't close friends with Charlie, but I respected him. And so, for me to just be like an associate of Charlie, it's kind of unbelievable to me because I was just, you know, at most, a good acquaintance of his, right? And yet I would never dream of, accusing, Turning Point of being behind his death or anything like that. And, yet Candace Owens, who claims to be his best friend in the world, she was by his side. She's basically made a whole, career basically now of, you know, grifting off of his death. And my God, she's basically like written an elaborate, conspiracy theory thriller that is it's like a schizophrenic, uh, Jason Bourne type movie, right? Some of this stuff, I swear, she just made up out of thin air. Uh, um, about Turning Point being involved in his death with no evidence, and yet she's claiming to be his best friend. And honestly, if you want to know my opinion, what's going on there is, I think it's pretty clear to tell that she had a crush on Charlie Kirk based on things that she has said, and the way she's spoken about him, it reminds me a lot of, a schoolgirl crush, honestly, the way she talks about him. And just from my observation, and a few other people have made this observation, it kinda seems like she's jealous almost that, like, that Charlie chose Erica Kirk over her, honestly. I don't know if Candace ever told, Charlie that she had feelings for him, but it certainly seems, just from observation, that that was pretty clear. And, um, I will say this, I don't even mean this, as like a knock on Charlie or anything. But I think like most guys in their, 20s, me included, we can sometimes be oblivious to when women like us. And, maybe that was the case. Maybe he was just oblivious that Candace liked him. If she did in fact like him, and the way Candace has kind of gone on about him lately, it kind of seems exact like that. So she's grifted off of making his whole, death into like a Jason Bourne, conspiracy theory. Then you have uh Nick Fuentes, who hated Charlie Kirk to his core, who was actively like trying to destroy Turning Point USA, it seems, who was try who was trying to infiltrate and destroy it from the inside out, who bragged like that he had infiltrated and with the Groypers and was quote unquote fucking turning point and impregnating with groypers, like, that was his little quote, right? So Nick despised Charlie when he was alive, and understandably, it seemed like Charlie despised Nick. And now Nick is, like, trying to do this whole thing of, "Well, I we disagreed, but I respected him as kind of like my enemy," and yeah, I don't buy that. His Nick's eulogy was fake. It was BS. And now he's, like, trying to, like, call out Candace Owens and say that she was lying and saying that, now he's, like, trying to align himself as, like, defending Turning Point, um, even though he still, in my opinion, hates Turning Point. I think he's just going, against Candace as part of his grift. Then you have Tucker Carlson who, um, I mean, he's just lost, like, all of his credibility, I think. He's, attacked, like, so many of his, former colleagues. Um, I mean, he probably knew that Charlie didn't like Nick Fuentes all that much, and still, he invited Charlie's sworn enemy on his podcast anyway. I mean, what is that? So it seems like a grift on his part. And then you have, Tim Pool, who uh was fence sitting for a while on the whole Charlie Kirk thing, as far as I can tell. And now it's popular to go after Candace. He's he's going after Candace as a grifter. Um Arguably though, Tim himself is a grifter, I would say. I know that if you were here, Max would say that Tim Pool is the ultimate grifter, right? And, yeah, I mean, I know that someone tried to shoot up his studio in his office, and, yeah, I don't obviously, that's horrendous, and, I don't condone political violence of any kind, and, I'm glad that Tim and his staff are okay. There are rumors of him, that he's going to quit the show because of this, and, I don't buy it necessarily. I think he's trying to use this as a way to fundraise and say that, we need more money or something like that. Uh, he might not be doing it as egregiously as Candace and saying that, they're coming after me because of Charlie Kirk, but, I don't know, man. It just feels slimy altogether. So it feels like the, entire commentary sphere ever since Charlie Kirk's death has kind of been, paralyzed, by this. This is all anyone in the commentary space wants to talk about is, Charlie Kirk's death and whatnot. And people are like, "Well, Sam, you're criticizing everyone for talking about Charlie Kirk's death, but you're doing it too." And yeah, you're right, I am. Because this is the topic that's trending on on all social media platforms for right now. Um, it is what it is what it is. I feel like I'm trying to take a nuanced, take on it. Um, yeah, it's just, the whole thing is just sad, man. It really is. Um, Charlie's death was obviously unexpected for all of us, and, I don't like I said, I didn't know Charlie well, but, from the few times I did interact with him, I think I knew him well enough to know that he wouldn't be happy with, people infighting over his death. Um, I certainly don't think he'd be happy with this, kind of rise of anti-Semitism and, woke stuff on the right. I think he would disavow Candace, for that, and I'm pretty sure he would disavow Tucker. I'm almost confident. Um, with that being said, I don't think that he was necessarily the only one holding the conservative movement together. I know some people have said that, um, and I know that, for a lot of younger conservatives, he was the Rush Limbaugh. So I understand why they might feel that way. Um, many conservatives felt the same way when Rush died. Like, conservatism will never be the same again, and who will take up the mantle of Rush? And honestly, as I've said on the show before, no one can, right? Rush was one in a million. No one will be able to take up his mantle, uh, what he was doing. No one's going to be able to take Charlie Kirk's place, either, necessarily. Uh, Even Erica Kirk is going to, take her own path. Um, and honestly, like with her, I don't think that she's, what's amazing to me too is people are saying that she's grifting, but somehow Candace Owens not. Um, Honestly, like Erica's only been on stage like what 3 or 4 times since Charlie's death. She's only done like 3 or 4 appearances that I know of talking about this at all. Meanwhile, Candace is talking about Charlie Kirk every day, right? So who's the real grifter? Like I said, it's frustrating, but you know, we must push forward. And you know, I think I think this might be a uh radical opinion uh in and of itself, right? But maybe folks, just maybe, I know this is pretty radical what I'm about to say, but maybe Tyler Robinson did in fact, you know, kill Charlie Kirk and there's no grand, cover up there. And maybe Charlie did in fact want Erica Kirk to be his successor in the event that he got murdered, right? And maybe Turning Point is doing the best that they know how with the situation. I know it's crazy. I know it's not, I know that the whole, inside job conspiracy theory thing, I know that's sexy. I know that gets more eyebrows, and I know that that's, it's more, it's more entertaining, right? To pretend that this is some, Hollywood action spy movie thing. Um, and I write political thrillers, as most people know. Um, and in fact, as I've said before, I do have a book coming out in early 2026, in which I talk out, part of the story is based on, the Charlie Kirk assassination, right? And kind of ties into, kind of the larger themes of Shadows of Deception. But the difference is, folks, is I am clearly stating that my thriller is a work of fiction, right? And that it's based on true events. I'm not trying to, you know, spin my made up story as what actually happened with Charlie Kirk, right? Which is what Candace is doing. She's trying to make her, conspiracy theory thrill out to be what actually happened. So, yeah, the whole Charlie Kirk thing at this point, uh, it just feels like a whole grift. Uh, the way that Candace and Nick and, Tucker and all these other voices are going out on about it. And, that's unfortunate, but at the same time, that's all that the political commentary algorithm seems to want to talk about right now. So, what else am I to do but talk about it and I guess vent about it myself? That's where I'm ultimately coming with this, folks. Anyway, I will see you all for the Whitfield Report live tomorrow, and then we will have a guest on Thursday. I know we haven't had a guest on the show for a while. End of the year holidays, kind of a crazy time, but um, we will get back to that. Really appreciate all of you for watching and tuning in. Really appreciate it. Like, comment, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're on Substack, subscribe. And if you're on Spotify, well, uh, give the show a 5-star rating if you're so compelled. I appreciate it. Anyway, talk soon. Hope everyone is doing well. Later, Gators.